horrible display challenging ET in general out in the middle of nowhere?
That's what I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off. When I was having this fit, I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment, I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Worked with ICAR, don't you know? Investigating UFOs. Out for a drive with a gal one night, they stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, he commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything like that, you know. Seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter right in the eye and said, "Any last wish before you die?" Yo, reached for his gun, quick as a twitch, and said, "Fill your claw, you son of a bitch." Now a legend spread across the land about this pistol-waving man. But if you're from space or from Earth below, you don't give no lip to Six Gun Joe.
All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's a show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in 3 categories: education, storyteller and drama, and arts. For 5 years and with over 280 weekly episodes and 64 million plus downloads, the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast has provided advice and tips from international best-selling authors, world-class artists, contest judges and winners, and industry professionals. It is based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard to help the aspiring writer and artist no matter their age, race, ethnicity, or gender. It is dedicated to the future of storytelling and art by showing that it is never too late to start, and those who make it are those who never give up. We are all busy, but I'd be so grateful if you could take a moment and vote now. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate News on the Flip Side. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The News on the Flip Side, in the category of politics and news. News on the Flip Side is a much different news and political program, which is not deemed as opinion news. Listen as anchor host Joe Montaldo brings you just the facts from trusted sources, which will allow you, the people, to make up your own minds on the various stories being reported on. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate The News on the Flip Side in the category of news and politics. That's podcastawards.com. Please take a moment and vote now.
Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
What the hell?
Welcome to UFO Undercover, with your host, Joe Montaldo.
Okay, guys, that what the hell wasn't supposed to be in there, but that Joe Montaldo thing was supposed to be in there, but not that other thing. We're gonna have to get a new intro for Jay. Oh, so Jay, John called me yesterday. I found out we are the runners-up now. We have made the first round of voting for News on the Flip Side. So it's up for the finalists now. We made it through the first 5 million votes or more.
Sweet.
So it's only down to 5,000 votes, only 5,000 people. And a lot of them were chosen from the people who voted the first time or who had podcasts that didn't make it. Oh, the grumpy people get to vote. Look, grumpy people, I love all y'all. Okay, man, come on. See, it's hard to get first place in the news because you never know who's more popular right now. Is it Donald Trump? Or is it?
And the news is always so dynamic. It's always changing. So
it is.
You know, somebody might get a scoop on a story that they heard before you, and then boom, you know, they win the podcast awards.
But we have 5 hosts on that show, guys and girls. Yes, we do. It's myself, Jay, Leah, and the Double Seans, and you never know what's going to come out of anybody's mouth at any given time. That's what makes the show fun. Sometimes it can be boring. We're just chit-chatting about whatever we're chit-chatting about, but sometimes we're actually talking about fun stuff or political stuff like we have been lately. The polls have been just fabulous to go through. Quincy, I'm sorry, dude. I could give you the polls from last Friday, but today is Wednesday. you probably need to update them in
the archives. You can watch the whole show.
You
skip all the way to the end.
Yeah, you can go. The polls are always at the end of the show. If that's what Jay was just telling you, so you can go all the way to the end of the show. In the last hours, the polls. We did Trump versus Kamala. Sorry, my voice is catching up, guys. But you can go check them out for yourself, and they're there. And it's interesting. No, it's not something we talk about here. But it's not that we don't talk about politics here in relation to, what it may have to do with extraterrestrials or contact or flying saucers or what have you. It's just when it comes to just outright political bullshit. No, we leave that for the other show. Well, Bruce, it is possible. Very unlikely, but it is possible that some reptilian race or some human race or some gray race interfered in our politics in such a way that they control people. And I would think that, but okay. Let me take a breath. All right, so let's think. Joe Biden. Would you even if you were an extraterrestrial that was trying to affect change on this planet, would you really want to be involved with Joe Biden or Kamala Harris?
Not at his age now, not with his maybe earlier in his career. My mom hates the man. She's passed away, but she always hated the man because
he was an asshole.
Well, yeah, I imagine he wasn't a very good politician, but the way he is now, absolutely not. He's clearly mentally deficient.
Yeah, well, but he's always had that thing where he said he had this job that he didn't have. He's always done that since he first got into the Senate. Yeah, that goes way back.
Fighter pilot. He's been a trash.
Well, he was one of the ones against. Remember, he was one of the ones against extraterrestrial stuff. He didn't want. He said it had no place in Congress on more than one occasion. So this current sitting president and the one that would be taking his place are pretty much anti-alien stuff.
Well, think about it. If you're going to encounter, even if you don't know for sure, but you think that they don't exist, in his case, that you're going to encounter an alien civilization, then absolutely you're going to encounter an alien government, an alien control system. And where else would that not be appropriate than in Senate? And who else is going to talk to an alien government? Not me. They're not going to come looking for me.
No, it's going to be
the leading countries or the leading country on the planet.
So now we know who it's going to be in the United States first. It'll be the guy whoever's in charge of Space Command gets to talk to him first now. So the Navy and Air Force, have had space programs for as long as I can remember. And I was in service way many moons ago, and they even had one then. Now today it's much more advanced than it was, but thanks to Uncle Trump created Space Force, and everybody gave him trouble. But you notice Biden didn't get rid of Space Force, right, people? Pay attention what's going on here. Kamala's never even talked about this program. So now all of a sudden, this program that everybody was joking and making fun of and calling space cadets is in charge of DARPA, the Navy, and the Air Force space programs. Mm-hmm. Holy shit, what happened here? Whoa, even
they also oversee NASA, don't they?
They have something to do with NASA, and they have, I forgot how they called it, provisional something at Area 51, 52, 53, and Los Alamos. These guys are probably the most connected organization ever to exist in our service anyway. I don't know exactly how all this. I remember Trump said they needed to be central for outer space. Everything that dealt with outer space needed to be centrally controlled, so that we always knew what was going on, and there wouldn't be no lags between. Oh, I got to call the Navy. Oh, I got to call Air Force. Oh, I got to call. No. You just call whatever the general is right now. He takes the command and sends it on down the line. Oh yeah. Well, he can be a general or an admiral. See, Trump was slick with that. Because the Navy's always bitched that should have space, because space is more like the oceans than it is like the atmosphere.
In most sci-fi shows, they usually go with a Navy kind of construction behind the premise. Like Star Trek was all Navy. They used Navy code words, Navy commands.
Most everything, with maybe the exception of Stargate, pretty much.
Yeah, Stargate was Air Force.
Stargate was Air Force,
but. If you look even at what you call that first movie with that comedian Leslie Nielsen, it's from the 1950s, that science fiction movie,
The Forbidden Planet.
That's the one. Thank you. I couldn't draw it back. Their uniforms are kind of Navy looking.
They are. Oh, you know why I remember that? It was the first color sci-fi movie ever. First one, guys. It wasn't the first color movie, guys. It was the first.
It might also. It's not the first sci-fi movie ever, but
it's not the first sci.
But well, yeah, it's just very close to it. I think it's probably the first big budget one.
Yeah, because you had Buck Rogers from the 1930s and
the movie serials, they were done in the 50s, but they were it was like a 240-minute movie done in half hour or 45-minute sequence.
Yeah, in segments. Yeah. Well, no, Kirk. I can't remember exactly. I think it was 1920 when Buck Rogers came. I could be wrong. Don't. It was way early, because I remember
either just after World War II or just at the very end of World War II when that stuff started.
Well, no, they had something before World War II. Because it was such a big deal when lasers came out. Oh man, I can't remember. Y'all got the internet. Go look it up, you damn people. Yeah, because you always had to. Yeah, well, Jules Verne said a lot of good stuff out. He had 5 or 6 good books out, plus a couple of novellas. Is that what they call them? The little shorties. And he had some good stuff out there. Well, people.
He predicted a lot of stuff. He predicted the submarine.
So he took it. We can't help it that the movies chose to do it campy. When you read the book, it's a good read. It's all up to your imagination, not so much now, because you've all seen, Going to the Center of Earth in 5 different remakes, at least, maybe 6. Nemo. I can't even tell you how many Nemos there's been. The Nautilus has been probably remade in 6 movies.
Oh, at least, yeah.
I think the Center of the Earth one might be the most out of all. I don't know, guys. It's a tough talk, but we can't help the way they decided to kind of give it a campy feel when they made them. They wanted a little comedy in there, like in the one where they got the goose and the big goofy guy. It's they just like to throw in stuff like that. For some reason, I think they thought Jules Verne's needed a little. Maybe they took it too seriously. He had good books though. What do you mean first sci-fi? No, that's not sci-fi. That's horror. You're talking about Frankenstein, right? Yeah, that's horror. That was like 18 something or something.
1880s or something like that. Yeah.
No, sci-fi. Well, you can go back and find sci-fi in the Roman and the Greek times, but it's not like it's not like spaceships. They call them chariots and stuff because they didn't understand what a spaceship was back then.
Well, and in some areas they called them shields.
Yeah, and flying shields, flying chariots. It's just because I know I remember reading something about these chariots from the sky. The Egyptians talked about it, and this is like 300 BC. 3,000 BC. That's like 5,000 years ago. And when you listen to them describe what it was doing and the things that were with it, it sounded like some type of spaceship, and it also sounded like some kind of spaceship that the side spaceships. You could actually see the pilots in.
Yeah, there's one. It's a painting of the nativity scene of Jesus Christ.
I haven't seen that one yet.
And there's 2 weird orb-like things in the top corners of the painting. One is kind of arrow shaped, and one is kind of ball shaped. But you can see pilots inside manipulating controls, and they're either chasing each other, or they're flying over and observing this miraculous event.
There was so many of those in the 1500s, and through the
yeah.
Spanish Inquisitions and through the Crusades that just seemed to pop up. What was that, Jimmy? No. No, you're thinking about Buckaroo Banzai. Yes, that's a whole different thing. Yeah.
Good movie though.
Yeah, it was a funny movie. So depending on how you look at Buck Rogers, now you got Buckaroo stuck in my head. It can be anywhere from like 1929 to 1951, depending on how you're talking about it and in what shape and form it was in.
Yeah.
So there was a comic strip in 1929, which is probably what started it. But when you look at the comic strip, because I'm looking at a picture of it right now, it doesn't look nothing like the Buck Rogers we all know and love.
Oh yeah, no, the early stuff is really wacky.
And then, oh well, what do you mean, Chris? Oh yeah, I remember Buck Rogers in the 25th and a half.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
Gil Gerard, 1980s.
Yeah, that was. Well, because back then you had to have hair, man. In the 80s, if you didn't have hair, you weren't getting in any movies.
It was a decade of hair, that's for sure.
Yes. I'm sure when the aliens came by, they looked at us and went, "What the
thing
hell?"
about the Navy thing. Here's an interesting fact from Star Trek. A lot of people don't know this, but in the numbers of the Enterprise is NCC-1701. NCC stands for Naval Construction Contract. So, again, going with the Navy in control of space, and then Model 1701 of the Constitution-class starship. So that's what the NCC stands for. So I kind of agree with the Navy's argument on that it's, it's not land. It's insubstantial.
Yeah, it's going to argue.
The same argument, pilots fly in the sky, which is insubstantial, but they need a solid surface to land upon.
But now that they've got Space Command, I don't think it's going to be an argument anymore.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Jack, Space Command said that all of these spaceports being built, because there's 3 spaceports being built right now. One in Texas, the one that they started in New Mexico, which I don't know if it's ever going to get finished or not. Well, Jeff Bezos and them were using it, but Jeff, I think, has been talking with Elon about using the Texas site, because from what I hear, the Texas site is going to be the most state-of-the-art anything ever to fly anything in space ever. Elon sounds serious about this shit. So if he gets and then what's his name from Virgin Airlines or whatever the hell it's called?
Yeah, I forget his name.
He's doing well. He's doing the what is Sierra? And they got it with Sierra Nevada, I think they were called. But anyway, they're building a space plane that takes off, goes into space, comes back, and lands. It's not a rocket of any kind. Even though I'm pretty sure it has rocket assist.
Richard Branson.
Yeah, that's it, Richard Branson. Well, I always get him confused with the Maccabee guy because he was getting into space before he mysteriously got killed. In a prison down there in South America, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that doesn't sound suspicious one bit.
I don't know, guys. Y'all take it for what it is. Go look it up for yourselves. But when you're an alien looking at this planet thinking, okay, so depending on when they came here would be when they chose who they were going to hang out with. So if they came more than 500 years ago, there really wasn't much around to really, technology-wise. If they came even earlier than that, there may have been some stuff around because we know we lost some stuff when we lost the Great Library of Alexandria. But still, there wasn't really much. I mean, so really the first signs of real technology would have been the turn of the 19th century, prior to World War I, would have been the first show of technology. Granted, it was for killing people, but it was tanks and ships and boats and stuff like that. No, radar hadn't been invented yet, Chris. No, radar came out in World War II, and not even in the beginning of World War II. Oh, the Americans got with the Brits and decided the Brits needed some way to know when the Germans were coming to kick their ass, and radar was invented. Not quite as subtle as that, but yeah, along those lines. But if you're an alien coming here, so if you're an alien who came to this planet, say at the turn of the 1900s, you wouldn't have contacted the United States or even Britain. You would have contacted Germany because they would have been the most advanced people on the planet at the time.
They definitely were. They were. I mean, after the First World War, when all of their army and naval equipment and tanks, everything was disassembled or taken away. They weren't allowed to make any kind of stuff, but yet somehow they're able to make the largest battleship under the nose of all of Europe and the West combined. Think about that.
Because
Germany is completely
they thought they
surrounded
had an ass
in
kicked.
Europe, and they're able to build the largest battleship before World War II. And then, of course, it didn't last very long, but it did some pretty serious damage when it first went out.
No, it was a pretty badass. It took a fleet to sink the damn thing. I remember the story. Yeah.
Well, what eventually happened in the end is a torpedo plane hit the rudder of and I believe it's called the Bismarck, and hit the rudder of it, and it just sat there and spun around in a circle, and they just sat out of its gun ranges and just dropped weapons on it, and it took them a few hours, like 4, to sink it, but they sunk it.
Yeah. Oh no, Chris! If it would have had regular power, they wouldn't have sunk it. It was. I don't want to say it was unsinkable because it was sunk, but it was damn near unsinkable.
Well, I mean, it took them 4 hours barrage to destroy the thing because it had the thickest armor plate of any of the weapons deployed at that time. This is World War II. It had the longest and heaviest and biggest guns, 9 of them. It had the longest. It was the longest. It had the largest crew. Think about it. They did this under the complete unawareness of all of Europe.
Yeah, remember they wanted the same penalties they were this time. You're not allowed to have an army, Germany. You caused a lot of shit in World War One.
What happened? All of a sudden, this stuff appears out of nowhere. Essentially,
yeah, I mean they're rolling out big Panzer divisions and stuff. You're like, where is this?
Thousands of Panzers.
Well, Pete, Panzers were badass tanks. But I mean, if you're an alien watching this world, you'd probably talk to Hitler first, because in his book Mein Kampf, sorry, said that backwards, Mein Kampf. But if you read his book, if you read his book, and there's a section about halfway through where he's talking to angels. When he describes these angels, fair hair, blonde skin, long blonde flowing hair, sound a whole lot like the Nordics. I mean, a whole lot like what people
would also be the Arcturians.
Yeah, well, close. I think they're all the same species. To be honest with you, I think they're just different colonies.
Vulcans and Romulans, yeah, sure.
Well, no, I don't mean like that. See, because with the reptilians, we know of at least 12 species of reptilians, but they're all come from the same base species. They're all related, even though some has wings, some has gills, and they all have different features. But they still basically look the same.
Right.
And they carry around the same weights. Oh no, Jeffrey. So there's definitely a flying set. Actually, there's 2 different flying sets of dragons. So one actually can flap his wings. I think the other one's just a glide, like a flying squirrel or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's those 2 that we've heard of. At least 2 or 3 sets with gills that we've heard of more than once. Well, the reptilians, and some of them seem to be water breather reptilians. So. And then there's a couple of different versions of the land. But basically, when you hear someone talk about an alpha reptilian, he's generally going to be 7 foot to 8 foot tall, more closer to 8 foot than 7, usually in a 600 to 700 range. And he's cut. That's not fat. That's just how they're built. Oh, I'm sure there's fat reptilians just like there's fat humans. But when you always send out your best on your spaceships, not your shittiest. So more than likely. And he's an alpha. So it's different. Alpha females the same way. They're just a little bit lighter, but about the same height. I think most people describe them about 150 pounds, maybe 200 pounds lighter than the males. But the alphas, so still, they're big, and they're the only ones that have tails. I always wondered about this shit when we first got into this research. Oh, that reptilian had a tail. Oh, the reptilian didn't have a tail. Oh, the reptilian had a tail. Oh, the reptilian. I'm like, stop it. Some bitch either got a tail or don't have a tail. So I started asking questions and asking more questions and put it out into the group and had them asking questions. And finally we realized when they were talking about the ones that didn't have tails, they were younger males or younger females. But they were younger. They weren't alphas or even betas. They were just probably adolescents or young, in our way of thinking, things like in their 30-somethings, which were however old they were. But they had that same mentality. They didn't have tails. The tails didn't start coming in until they start to assert authority or get into a position of authority. They don't have to be an alpha or beta, but they have to be into a position of authority amongst a group. However they do it. There's definitely some type of tribe mentality there. But as far as I can tell, even though there's all these different species of reptilian, there's one government and one religion. So they seem to be very narrow-minded when it comes to that.
Well, some other interesting things that, I mean, people, you say you're confused as whether they have tails, whether they don't. What's the difference? Same thing with whether they're good or bad. The information comes in such trickle forms that, one time they're good, one time they're bad, next time they're bad again, or good, bad. It just keeps flip-flopping. But it's also the same thing for what's out there. I mean, most people probably wouldn't have guessed of ones with gills. There are reptiles that swim and have gills. And then there's Star Trek Enterprise with Scott Bakula. Comes on after. They had an enemy with 5 races that came from the same planet. There were 2 species of humans, a species of insect, a species of reptilian, and an aquatic species. And then there was an extinct species of flyers, like avians, not flying lizards, but flying birds. But the aquatics aren't with gills. They're like our whales. They talk with like a sonar kind of thing. So, I mean, I don't think we've encountered that type of species yet. But Star Trek says that there's 2 kinds of an aquatic species. One, they say our whales are from another galaxy, perhaps, or another solar system anyway. And then they have the aquatic species in Enterprise, which allegedly predates Captain Kirk. So think about that. Like our whales, they're very intelligent creatures. Why don't you, if we could talk to them? And they said, "Well, we're not from here."
What's that, Chris? Well, you mean dolphins? Dolphins are intelligent.
Dolphins, octopus.
Remember, dolphins have 2 additional senses than we do, and their brains 1.5 size at times of ours. So, yeah, they might be smarter than we are. Well, remember, they live in 3/4 of the world where we live in 1/4 of it. Who's really smarter here? And they don't pollute their world.
Through data with dolphin research, they've concluded that dolphins, on any given average, can talk on 3 or 4 conversations with several different individuals at once.
Yeah,
we can't even do that.
And their language is actually supposed to be quite a bit more advanced than ours, so quite a bit bigger, actually. So they look at. Remember, they're in some ways, because of their sonar, so they can send an image with their sonar, or whatever you want to call it, telepathy, into the other dolphin's head. Yeah, it's a little different. They communicate differently than they do. And when you listen to them clicks and beeps underwater, you know that they're meaning something, and there's lots of them, so they're meaning several different things.
Yeah, precisely. Again, with Star Trek, when an alien probe comes looking for the whales, the humpback whales, it sends out a signal that no one can understand. And then Captain Kirk gets the idea, well, if they're pointing it at the ocean, what does it sound like under the water? So they tweak it, and then it's like, oh, it sounds like this. I'm like, oh, well, that's whale song.
Lucky they even knew what it was since they were all extinct. Christopher, I don't think all the whales are going to go extinct unless we have like a nuclear war or something. Nuclear winter.
And I think most of the bulk whaling has been stopped. There are still a few hardcores out there that are trying to, but
the Japanese and Chinese love to kill them some whales. Oh yeah,
I think they're the only 2 out there still doing it. Maybe 1 or 2 smaller countries, but for the most part,
and those there's 3 or 4 different groups out there that are giving Recom hell all the time, fouling up their props and shit, running up behind them and throwing big cords. You know how hard it is to get a prop unfouled, especially they can bend drive shafts inside the ship. I worked in something when I was young. When I got out the Navy, I was doing what they call diving pistons. These pistons are, I don't know, 30 foot tall, 20 foot wide. They were huge. And in case y'all don't know, people, you can't swim in oil. The buoyancy is different. You can't swim in it. You will fucking sink like a rock. Yes, that's why we actually had to have cables, and we would walk. We had these things we'd grab the sides and walk along the sides with. Well, water floats on top of the oil, so if there's enough water, you can swim in the water above the oil, as long as you don't have to go in the oil. Yeah, it's just a different buoyancy. Yeah, it was. I stayed doing that job for about 9 weeks, and I said, okay, enough of this. They paid really good money, but I was like, shit, this is gonna knock 25 years off my life.
Yeah, if not knock your life off all at once.
Well, actually, a friend of mine who said he'd been seeing aliens, who talked me into going on the damn ship. And I remember I should have known first day I got there was a pile of rags with grease on them that was at least 25 foot tall and at least that wide. It was ridiculous. Of shit they had just been cleaning parts on the ship. Now that happens. They ran afoul on something and twisted a prop, twisted a drive shaft, and blew 2 pistons. Well, it's a big thing when you can walk around inside the engine. It's different than when you're working from above it. Yeah, it's a strange thing. That's not what I wanted to do for a living. Yeah, but it was good money. I needed the money at the time, so I wasn't hesitated to take it. As far as the different aliens go, I mean, the reptilians are supposed to be an agrarian society. That's what they're supposed to be. That's what the Sumerians and the Mayans and the Aztecs and the Incans and the Toltecs all say they were.
Yeah, all of the ancient stories, no matter what race it is,
even if you
agrarian things, how to breed horses, how to breed cows, how to
the Dogons say the same thing. Even the Egyptians say the same thing. The ones that were considered evil were the human gods, the ones that had different heads and different shapes. No, they weren't shapeshifters. See, there's a fundamental problem with shapeshifting. If you're not an energy, a corporeal energy being, if you're not made from energy, shapeshifting is going to be impossible for you to do. Because taking flesh that's just solid flesh without any type of energy to move it around is not going to move. It's just going to sit there. There's nothing you can do about that. And I'm not saying there's not energy beings out there, because I know of at least 2 species I've heard of, especially the light beings, which seem to be more advanced than anything that exists, and not technologically wise. Yeah, well, technologically, so they don't really need technology. Maybe they did in the beginning, but today they can travel through space through thought. They can build and create through thought. They can ride in other people's bodies through thought. They don't need a physical form of technology. That's what they say dolphins have. They say dolphins are the same way. They don't need a physical form of technology to exist. We do. We need click and switch technologies, ratchets and wrenches and screwdrivers and drills and all sorts of stuff, torches, and we need all sorts of stuff to make things.
Cool stuff too, by the way.
But they make things through thought. Well, the Greys make things through seedlings. So, if I understand this correctly, the Greys can take a cell this big. Where's my camera? Like that. Cell about this big. Put it in and then whatever base is, and it will grow into a full-size spaceship, or a full-size base, or a full-size colony on a planet. Yet their things they live in and control and drive are alive. So the Greys have an ability to meld with their surroundings in ways the other races haven't figured out yet. Probably a gift from the light beings, because that's who. Because
it could be a result of their galactic level, their civilization level.
But they talk about
level, they can probably manipulate matter in such a way that they can, do things that we can't even imagine.
Well, I have no doubt about that. But the council, what they get from the council, basically is that the light beings are just they're Q, basically, is what they are, or worse. I shouldn't say or worse, but Q and the abilities of their and their abilities.
The Q and the Q Continuum were pretty powerful beings, though.
Yeah, they are. So they said the reptilians said, well, actually, Gray said this, that the light beings had been crossing over the Great Void from their galaxy to this one, and along the way, it took them a long time to cross. And even though they were traveling, I forgot, it was some astronomical, like 10,000 times the speed of light, some ridiculous amount. I think it was more than that. It was like 100,000 times the speed of light, and it was still going to take close to 1,000 years for them to cross from one side to the other. But anyway, somewhere along the line, they realized that this galaxy, there was a major war going on between about 30 or 40 races, maybe even more than that. It was just a major war. It was tearing up everything. It was using up resources. So while they were coming here, they had been searching, because they had the ability to jump with their minds. They've been searching for a race that they could turn into like a galactic policeman. They found the Greys, and they enhanced the Greys. According to the Greys, they were enhanced in several ways, which made them a very, very, very powerful super race, much more so than the reptilians and humans. See, and we all had this wrong 30 years ago. Everyone thought the Greys worked for the reptilians and humans. Everyone did. It was
or were subordinate to the reptilians and insectoids at least. Yeah.
And then we found out much later on that no, they're scared of them. Well, well, that was the thing. And then we found out that their ships are organic and their technologies are organic, and they're much more advanced than the other races. So, and then
it was also suspected that they were working together as a triumvirate, and we know that now that's also not the case. It's really the Anunnaki, if you will, and the reptilians having a little bit of a scuffle there, and the Greys come in and say, "All right, we're the referee. This is what's going to go on from now on, or we'll kill you."
And that's exactly what happened too, because all that shit stopped as soon as the reptilians showed up. All that shit stopped. Matter of fact, not only did it all stop, the reptilians got a bad rap. Yeah, because right around the time of Christ, so before Christ, for 5 or 6 or 10,000 years, however long it was, 20,000 years before Christ, reptilians were revered in the world. They were the bringer of life. They were the bringer.
There are statues in Iran and Iraq of those beings, and people thought they were the Anunnaki because they were revered as gods, but they're not. We now know that they're two separate groups that they revered as gods. Anunnaki first, and then the reptilians much later.
And we still haven't figured out why humans started naming alien races, because I know, like, the Greys, when they talk, they say, and the reptilians both say that their name cannot be pronounced in our language.
Yeah.
So, and they're not meaning it, and they're not meaning it as a slight. They're meaning it as you just haven't evolved enough, or your language hasn't evolved enough for our particular. Which makes me wonder.
Probably because it's an abstract thought, which cannot be necessarily spoken in thought or spoken in word. Right?
Yeah, and that's probably exactly what it is. That it has to be done with telepathy, because I know the Greys in general. People tell you all the time, not just all the races. If there's an abduction going on and you're in a bad position, and if you can struggle all you want, that's not going to help you. You can struggle. You can play Hong Kong Fooey on their ass, whatever you want. That's not going to stop them. But sometimes, if you transmit that thought of anger and fear all at the same time into that alien's head, a lot of times they'll stop. They'll just stop. Because they understand that. They didn't understand that shit with you over there wailing and screaming. I don't know what the hell that is. Hell, I'm not even sure if the Greys even have ears left anymore, except for earbuds. I'm not sure they can hear anymore. I think their senses is going far beyond that. And maybe they can, but when people draw them, they always draw a little tiny ear, but they never draw a hole. I know. Figure that one out. And at first, I just thought it was a glitch. People were forgetting. But then I realized everybody was drawing it like that. It wasn't a glitch.
It's probably true of other parts of their senses too. Like their smell is probably gone. Their sense of taste is probably gone. We know they can see. Their eyes are extremely huge, and we know they have contacts. And we know the contacts are technology and are like heads-up displays.
So I figure, let me see if we got something about that size. Well, we'll use this old phone right here. Come here, let me get this for a second. So y'all see this old phone, this dark side of this phone. So if you take it about this much of it from over here, whoops, I'm going to finger straight and get this out the way. That little section, that little triangle you see there is how that Gray's eye would look to you. When you seen it, that's what you would see, and you would see your own reflection. But the problem is that pops off. And their eye socket is the same as ours. Their eye is still bigger than ours, though. But it's not like that. It
has a cornea and it has an iris.
It's about double the size of human eyes. It does have a cornea iris. The color is different. So this is how you also know reptilians and Greys have different colored eyes than humans do. They're just different. Even though the human aliens, to some part, have, I hate to say it like this, like shades of our color. Not really. Like, in other words, you're not going to see like a dark blue-eyed human alien. You might see like a purple dark alien.
Yeah.
Their eyes are just off.
Silver, purple, yellow.
It has something to do with where they're born and things like that. And remember, your eyes are adjusted to where you come from. So we're on Earth. These may have different atmospheres where they live. So we may not even be seeing their eye color true because we're seeing it through Earth's sun shield.
Well, just look at other species on Earth. Look at your cat. Look at your dog. My black cat has gold eyes. My orange cats have like almost brown eyes. It's weird. My dog has normal looking human eyes with whites and everything. But the cats, I mean, they have weird colored, like the white part isn't white.
Because cats are Satan's little shits. They're demons, man. What y'all talking about, people? All cats are demons.
When someone breaks into your house and all you have is a cat to throw at them, they can be pretty handy.
Yeah, like in the Mummy. Whoa!
Yeah.
You never seen The Mummy, dude? Really?
Oh God.
Oh man, so that's one of the things he uses to defend himself is a white cat.
Yep.
Yeah. No, you have to see. I'm not going to tell you why. It's part of the movie.
Go watch it. Go watch it. The Mummy
It's
with
a fun
Brendan
movie to
Fraser.
watch. Yeah, it's a fun movie to watch. He did really good. He actually was better than who was
Tom
the
Cruise.
famous? Yeah, Tom Cruise did it.
Because
Tom
who
Cruise
rebooted the same genre, the same character.
He sucked, people. Tom, I'm not hating on you,
I've boycotted
dude.
Tom Cruise since he did the first Mission Impossible. My father, who also is passed, my father and I were huge fans of Mission Impossible. We watched the show religiously every day. And then years later,
like the old school.
Law and Order came on, and I was watching the show, and the first DA, I was like, I know this guy. And I looked him up on IMDb, and he was the first guy before Peter Graves who was in charge of the Mission Impossible force. But anyway, Tom Cruise did the movie. My father and I. My father hates the movies. No, I mean, except for when we were really young, he never took us to the movies after we were like 18. But this movie came out. My dad said, "We're going to the movies." I'm like, "Okay." Mission Impossible. We walked out. And we're like, "I hated it." He's like, "Yeah, me too." Because he changed the way the characters were. We were so, and the same with the cast. So I've boycotted Tom Cruise in any movie he's done since Mission Impossible 1. And I won't go back.
Frankie, I've never seen either one of the Maverick movies. I'm sorry, man. What do you mean? Okay. Real quick, because I don't want to get off topic too bad. I served on the USS Nimitz. I know all about what really goes on board jets. I've been with the Top Gun pilots before. I've actually been to the bombing derby in Fallon, Nevada more than one time, where all the Top Guns are, both Air Force and Navy. I watch the Navy kick their ass every year, too, for that matter. Because Navy pilots are crazier than Air Force pilots, are much crazier.
They're nuts.
You have to land on a little bitty floating platform. Yeah, it looks big when you're standing next to it, but when you're up in air trying to land on it, it don't look all that big.
When you're 1,000 feet, you are trying to aim your 90. How long is the plane? 90 feet? 40 feet? How long are they? They're long. They're big. They're bigger than a car. Anyway, you're aiming basically at a postage stamp floating on the ocean. You have to be nuts to try to do that.
It's. Have I ever? I've never landed one myself, but I've landed many times on a carrier. Anytime we come in winter, that's the only way. It's rare that you get off on a boat. No. That's old wives' tale. Most of the time, coming, going. Well, we had also cargo planes that came in and stuff like that. Stuff like you'd be surprised how big of a plane they can land on one of them. I was surprised. So I was more surprised they landed this big old cargo plane on here, right? I was more surprised that it could get off the boat without falling in the ocean. It's turboprop. I'm thinking this thing's not going to make it. It's going to get run over by the cab.
Can I tell my dad's story about when he had to get evacuated from an aircraft carrier during the first Gulf War?
Oh, go ahead, babe.
So they were doing sea trials with some submarines, and I don't know where, probably either the Bahamas or the Bermudas. That's usually where they were. But anyway, for some reason, my dad was on the aircraft carrier talking to that captain for some reason. They were doing top secret work, but my dad's dad would tell me this story because no top secret stuff was going on. So the captain informs my father, who was a VIP on the boat, by the way, that they're steaming towards the Persian Gulf to attack Iran and Iraq for whatever the first Gulf War. And my father says, "Bullshit, get me off of this." He said the F word, "off this boat now." So they gutted a helo, in Navy terms, that's a helicopter. They put him on it and loads of extra fuel, and they sent him to another boat that can accept helicopters, probably a destroyer or a battleship. From that, they transferred him by boat from captain's launch to the LCAC carrier. And LCAC is a light cushion air vehicle, basically a hovercraft. And they stuck my dad on this thing, and then he's on this carrier, and the carrier gets close to Richmond, and they put him on an LCAC device, a hovercraft. They launch him from this other carrier into Richmond or Newport News, I forget which. And that's how my dad was evacuated from almost World War III in the first Gulf War. So it wasn't fun for him. In fact, he said it was the worst experience of his life.
It can be weird, people. I mean, it's weird. Oh, I had flown off a couple times with helicopters. Most of the time, I came in with my fighter squadron.
Personally, if I was there with him, I would have loved the shit out of it. I would have had so much fun. I probably would have thrown up a lot, but I would have enjoyed it.
Last time I was there was it was funny. Most of the time, I came in with my squadron, so I was either on one of the River Rattlers, on one of the A-72 Corsairs, or one of the F-14s or F-18s, depending on who I was working for that month. That's dictated what plane I'd be coming in on. But them River Rattlers, them A-72 Corsairs, them A-6, them hunk of junks, man. I swear they sound like they were gonna, because they couldn't do over like 690 miles. Maybe they couldn't do
talking World War II era Corsairs.
No, not World War II. Those are props. These are A7 Corsair 2s. These were like
the modern version. Okay, yeah,
it's like Vietnam. Yeah. These was like the Vietnam version of them, and they're just bombers basically, with these big, huge things in the front where the air intake goes. But man, they were rattle traps. I used to give them pilots all kind of shit about flying on them things. Well, Joe, you're the one that's got to work on it. I said, man, if it was up to me, I'd tell you I'll get new planes. He started laughing. He's like, yeah, like we haven't said that 100 million times. And, because that's true. They did. They had been whining that they had needed new jets for a long time, but Navy liked them. They were good bombers. They did whatever the Navy needed them to do, obviously. All I know is we spent a lot of time working on the hunk of junks. It seemed to be like an enormous amount of time that we spent working on those ships. On those jets. It was ridiculous how much time we spent on those things. But if it worked, it worked. So I'm not gonna complain. But it was freaky. It was freaky, and you always get so many UFO stories coming in. These pilots were constantly telling you about they saw this, that, or the other damn thing. And you could tell they were serious because they'd be white in the face and stuff, and like, wow, did you And one guy had the jitters one day. He was telling me, but I said, "What's up, man?" And he said, "Well, look, I can tell you, because we're not allowed to report them right now." And I'm like, "What do you mean you're not allowed to report them right now?" As soon as he said that, I knew this was shit up. And he starts talking to me about it, and the commander of the deck comes out. He says, "Joe, what are you doing down here? You're not supposed to be working flight deck." I said, "Joe, I was short today, so I was the only certified plane captain you had left. So I was out working the flight deck." And he said, "What's your boy tell me?" I said, "Oh, he's just telling me about a rough time getting in. The weather was kind of rough, and this guy was so happy. I lied for him. He could not believe it. When he finally left, he goes, 'I can't believe you took up for me.' I was like," he said, "Why?" I said, "I wasn't going to tell him you said you seen a UFO. Then when he had to go through all his paperwork and bullshit, and you had to go through psych evaluation. Oh yeah, man, they had to go through a psych evaluation.
Oh, yeah.
If they saw one.
Be grounded until all that stuff's over with. Yeah, no way.
It was crazy. What's that, Jeffrey? Oh no, it was crazy, man. The way they did that. Oh no, indeed not. No, we seen a saucer land on the carrier, but that's a whole different story. So that's a show by itself. But the Nimitz was always, until it was retired, was always the flagship. So it was always getting all the good duties. I asked for duty on the Enterprise because I wanted to serve on the Enterprise, man, because it was the Enterprise, but I didn't get the Enterprise.
It wasn't the Enterprise, but they did on board of that Enterprise you're speaking of. CVN 65 has on board a Star Trek museum, an entire cabin dedicated to Star Trek, and they have some original props and stuff in there too.
And that ship sure is on there.
Yep.
I don't know, Frankie. I don't know who you're talking about, but it's. I don't know, dude. I mean, aliens don't really seem to give a shit like that. I mean,
yeah, but I definitely think they have involved themselves in, at least, if not necessarily influencing our politics, but at least starting us off in the right way. I mean, where did Hammurabi get his code? I mean, before that, all kinds of like kingly things were like arm for an arm, leg for a leg. You steal this, they get that back from you, that kind of thing. And his code is basically our code.
There's so much that we didn't, that we should know that we don't know. What's that?
Or so much that we used to know and have forgotten.
Well, that's true too.
You spoke about the light beings coming, making the crossing from one galaxy to here, and this area was in chaos and war. Well, I've always wondered what the history of our solar system is. There's the Urantia book, which claims that it was created out of thought patterns like the Bible. But there's some serious devastation in just our solar system alone. There's an entire planet that's broken up into rubble. There's another planet whose atmosphere and water have been stripped off of it, and there's a big lightning gouge across the middle of it. Another planet is knocked over on its side. Another planet rotates backwards. So what the F happened? Where can we get the history of what caused all that chaos in our solar system?
Yeah, and what did cause all that chaos in our solar system?
Is that alien influence? Is that alien war?
Could it be alien war? Could it be alien influence? Could it have been the aliens here to save everybody because they knew the shit was going down? And that's the other problem I've always had with this. It could simply be that the three planets we're talking about, or the three species we're talking about, the humans could easily be a heavy worlder environment. The Greys could easily be from Mars, and the reptilians could have easily been from here or from the other world. Because I bet you Venus at one time was a water planet. Shit, at one time Mars was a water planet, but the gravity is too light on Mars for. See, the Greys have like cartilage; they don't have bone like we do, and they grow differently. It looks like they come from a light world, low sun world, which is what Mars is. Mars is a light gravity, low sun world, so that would be kind of where the reptilians would fit in.
That would also explain the Greys as well.
Where the Greys would fit in. And I would bet, we know Earth is a water planet. We know there was reptilians on this planet for a long time before we came here. So
there still are reptilians on this planet.
Yeah. So trying to, the three races we're talking about may not be from outside the solar. Well, originally they may not have been from outside the solar system. Now they're all over the place. They're everywhere. From what I understand about the Draconians, they're in at least 100 different worlds. So are the human aliens. No telling where the Greys are.
But still, something came through, and it seems not accidental. What the damage to the solar system appears to be on purpose. So why? Was it a Star Wars thing? Were they building a big honking space gun here, or maybe on the fifth planet? That's where maybe they were building a Death Star in the fifth planet's atmosphere, and boom, they blew it up in this heaven and hell war that's always spoken about.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. How much of this gets mistaken for religious fervor? We talk to people all the time about this. People are like, well, this could be religion stuff. Well, yeah, it could be religion stuff.
And the idea comes from having aliens that you revere as gods, and you turn that religion, an invention of men, as we keep saying here, to control the thoughts, minds, and lives of other men. Religion isn't made from your God. Men made it.
Yeah.
Strictly and forever. So that could be alien influence. There's the Hammurabi Code we just spoke about. And what about the King's List? The Sumerian King's List has a list of those who were king or could be king. And so who chose?
And that's the thing.
Who decides who's going to be the king? There's no vote, but there's this list that says who can be king, who is king, and who has been king.
What's that, Frankie? Who's king? Well, we don't know who king is. When they say king, or are they talking about the god and extraterrestrial? What are they talking about? No one really knows.
So, because some of these kings living 30, 40,000 years and ruling for 6 or 7 or 10 or 20,000 years.
What's that, Frankie? No, dude. See, that's what we're trying to say. So we don't know what you consider God may be God, maybe extraterrestrial. None of us really know. That's the whole point we're trying to get across.
That's the whole mystery. That's part of the whole mystery, anyway.
We don't really know, and none of us were around to be sure. And everybody's a little bit scared to say, well, that's God or that's demons. Well, because people don't want to say that, because if they believe in God, they're scared they might burn in hell.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I don't make the rules. I'm sure Jay ain't making the rules either. Well, because we don't know. I'm sure we would all like to say we know, but we don't know.
Well, there's also the famous George Carlin joke where he talks about something about God, and I forget exactly what he says about God, but he says, "But if this is true, may God strike this audience dead right now."
That sounds
And
like
nothing
that
happens,
to
but I
me.
mean, you can say the same thing about, a telekinetic. I just read a joke from Stephen Wright on Facebook today, and he's like, if there's any telekinetics out there right now, raise my hand.
I know. Raise your hand. Put it up there, baby. Well, people, because
Hey, Leah.
I don't. It's getting. What was that, Kirby? No. Let's hold on, man. I get carried away here, my friend. So, yeah, that's what we're saying. We don't know what is God, what is extraterrestrial, because let's be honest. Anything that ET could have done back then could have easily been mistaken as a god. That's I mean, walking on water, feeding the
Technology could
multitudes. Any
be
of
a
this.
natural ability. What if Jesus walking water was a natural ability, not a technology?
Any of this could have been. That's what we're saying, dude. Any of this could have been exactly that. It could have been what we thought was a god was an alien, or what we thought was an alien was a god. None of us were there. Like I said,
It's the $64,000 question. That old '50s TV contest TV quiz show. That's the question of the hour. Oh, and here's another good one too. We talk about do aliens influence, or have they at least given us the idea of politics and government? What if we do find another alien government? How close or how different is their government going to be from any governments we have right now? Or how close? That's and what if they're people you wouldn't want to be friends with? Like, let's say we find another U.S. type government out there, but there are creatures that are so offstandish to us we can't be friends with them.
and therein lies the problem, guys. So which one is it? I don't know. I wasn't there. I'd like to be able to tell y'all it was this, that, or the other thing, but since I wasn't there.
And allegedly, the Greys, at least, I think, have some kind of data of this planet, like the dinosaur ages, like equivalent to video and film footage. That some abductees have at least said they've been shown.
Well, I know the reptilians talk about all those libraries they have with those orbs in there, where you can touch the orb and it comes out in front of you. It like takes over the screen or something. So yeah. I can understand those, and so they've been around a long time. So just because we've only been around, however long we've been around, a couple thousand years, doesn't mean they haven't been long. Can't get that out. They have been around longer. Sorry, guys, for us having the damnedest time getting that out of my mouth.
Sitchin invariably says 450,000 years, but even then, that's not far back enough to get all of the dinosaurs. Certainly not the ones where we'd be interested in, like T-Rex.
We're not trying to change it. We're just trying to go live. Think, behave yourself. What's that, Frank? No, I'm just playing with something else. While I'm talking to y'all, I was playing with Roku and Rumble. The people at Roku have been being a pain in my ass lately. It's one day I'll tell you that whole story on the news show.
Yeah, 72 million years ago was Tyrannosaurus Rex. So even if the aliens have been here since 500,000 years ago, they don't have footage of that. They'd have footage of mastodons, plesiosaurs, things that were extincted by the Chicxulub event.
Yeah, what was that, Frank? No. I mean, so let's say you were born 3,500 years ago in the height of the Egyptian Empire, and you see one of the pharaohs walking around with that elongated head and them long, skinny arms,
and 6 fingers.
Yeah, and 6 fingers, 6 toes. But yet, so is he a god or is he an extraterrestrial? Well, since you don't even
hybrid.
Yeah, or a hybrid. Or since you don't know what that is, all you know is what is a god. Well, of course, we're going to think it's a god. when of course it's not. It's something else. So that really starts the problem of what I mean. Like I said, I've lost a good job because I said Jesus could have been an alien. Uh, because it's not. So I remember watching the movie Late Great Planet Earth. I actually had to read the book, but so 90% of everything that's in there, man can reproduce today. So does that still make them miracles? I've seen cats walk on water. I should say I've seen cats run on water.
I saw my dad walk on water in Florida. He threw me and my brother into the ocean, and then a shark opened up his face right in front of mine, and his mouth was big enough to swallow my whole head. Next thing I know is my dad has me and my brother under each arm, and I swear to God, the man was running on top of the water to get us out of that ocean. That's a true story.
Well, Chris, today there are technologies that could help man walk on water, and then within 100 years, that we'll have things that can do it quite easily. Now we have things today that can do it.
You can
but
do
in 100 years, we'll have more.
You seen that, Joe? The water jet backpack. You can go to certain like beach resort things, and they give you this backpack, and it's like there's like a tube that it siphons from the ocean, and it just shoots water out the back, and you can float. And can't if you pull the tube out of the water, you stop, but it's still pretty cool.
Yeah, they are. Well, no, you can see them. They're different resorts. Probably more high-end resorts these days, but they're getting more popular, so you'll start seeing them.
I think certain places in boardwalks in Florida, you can do that.
Yeah, as they they got a couple of different kinds you can use. It's actually kind of cool. Yeah, they got a couple of different kinds, and you can just sit there and hover, and then they've got regular. They invented a new what do you call it, jetpack? It's actually, let me rephrase it. They invented 3 new jetpacks. One of them is a fan pack, so it's like a drone that you stand on top of, and you just fly.
Oh, like a goblin glider. Cool.
Yeah, it's what it is, basically. It's like
I love it.
So you can stand on that, and then there's another one that's a fuel-propelled jetpack, but I don't think it's flammable fuel. It looks like some kind of compressed fuel of some type. And then there's another one after that. I don't remember what it was, but there was 3 of them they were showing. I've seen 2 of them fly. And the reason I even got involved in them is they kept showing these weird looking people way up in the sky flying around. And for somebody finally got a good shot in Mexico of a guy, and they realized it was a jetpack. Well, the old school ones were different. They were fueled up, and them things were big flying candles is what they were.
Yeah, if you weren't careful, it would explode with you on it.
Well, the drone one, I think they said you get 45 minutes. 50 minutes. I don't think you get much more out of the fueled one either.
It's funny to go like 30-minute, to the pizza joint, pick up a pizza, and then hoverboard it back.
Oh, and that's the other thing. Poor drivers for all these companies are fixing to be out of business, man. They fixing to start using drones for all of this. Domino's already has drones.
Amazon's been using drones for several years now. In certain markets, but not, it's not everywhere, but there are certain places you can get it. And I'm sure the same with Domino's. My Domino's doesn't do that. There's still a guy with a cart, some guy in a red pickup zooming through my neighborhood until 10 o'clock when they close.
Chris, you're gonna see. You're gonna start seeing a lot of different kind of technologies over the next decade or so. Just all kind of interesting stuff.
It may come out sooner, if heaven forbid it doesn't. Knock on wood. My desk is made out of wood. If things escalate in Israel, which likely they are, there may be some technologies that come out, especially if World War III spikes off of this. The U.S., if we get involved in another world war, that stuff we have that's not ready to come out but is usable, we're going to use it.
Yeah, we are. We're going to use it.
There's no question. The atom bomb, they weren't sure that it was going to work. They dropped a test, and they said, well, the test piece worked. What about the other 2? They didn't know, but they used them.
Oh, I don't know, Chris. That's a lot of that's weird. I mean, as we grow as a species, our technologies are going to get cooler and better and faster. But what they'll do is once they, they'll start letting you do like building drones instead of being the guy who delivers Well, yeah. Well, they're gonna have to do something. What are we going to be all like Expanse and all be on basic assistance? That's not going to frickin' work. In the movies that might work, but in real life, that's going to start a damn revolution. Is what that's going to do. I mean, look around the world right now. There's a freaking revolution going on right now, all over the place. People are pissed.
Well, now, do we think if there's any possibility that there's alien influence in these few conflicts that have sprung up recently?
I don't think the aliens really give
Or
a
is
shit.
that strictly all Earth based?
It's all us. I don't think the aliens really give a you know what either way. I think they look at us like, well, if the idiots are stupid enough to blow themselves up, then I guess what? Then it's
Let them do it.
Yeah. Because I mean, they can come in and clean up the planet and save the planet. So what do they care?
Well, but certainly though, if they're doing experiments with our genetics, then there must be certain something that's going to happen that they don't want to happen that they have to stop in order to keep their experiment going. So I think if we're about to kill ourselves, the whole planet, I think they would probably say, "Wait a minute, let's stop that right here."
Let's stop and look. They didn't stop Fukushima. They didn't stop Nagasaki or 3 Mile Island or Chernobyl.
That was a machine though that went over, and they
But they didn't know when going to go China Syndrome. But they didn't know when.
They didn't stop our bombs because they needed to know that they worked, and we dropped 3 of them. And then after that, that's when the big boom. I mean, because if you look at pictures of both Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and probably some of the unretouched ones from Trinity, where they did the first one, I bet you there's a UFO there. But at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I know there are because there's several pictures of the UFO.
Yeah, they were probably watching. You dumb idiots.
They didn't stop it.
Bomb on your own people.
But it's because it's a local event. Local to Hiroshima and Nagasaki and Trinity Base.
I think what
the
real problem
planet,
is
I think
I don't think they're allowed to interfere. I just don't think they're allowed to interfere, period.
If it's going to kill the planet, I think
well, think about it. There are already 3 dead planets in this solar system. They didn't stop those.
Well, they may not have gotten here in time. We don't know the story.
And you don't know. They might be waiting for us to kill the planet so they can come house it and live here.
They might have been the ones who did the destruction. We don't know that.
They might be. Since we all share a common DNA with them, they're not allowed to destroy us. But if we destroy ourselves, oh well, too bad, so sad. Yeah. They didn't do
that. Bonus planet.
And, and I'm sure the Greys would be happy, and reptilians would definitely be happy with 3/4 of the planet water. All this big sky to fly around in, all this water to swim around. Shit, they'd be like pig and poop, man. I'm serious, guys. I mean, if you go through our history, there are many times they could have interfered that they just didn't. They just stood by and watched. I mean, they knew
when they didn't need to interfere, and they did.
I mean,
Alexander the Great.
53 million people died in World War II. The burning of Alexandria alone should have been something they stopped. They knew that had to set us back 1,000 years. The Spanish Inquisition's probably set us back 500 years. Between those 2 events, we would be 1,500 years more advanced today than we are right now. Think about it. There would probably not even be any diseases on the planet.
It's also quite possible that they allowed the library at Alexandria to be destroyed to hide any proof of their existence. Not that there isn't enough of it already, but, like concrete, irrefutable.
Better proof. Yeah, well, it might have been better proof.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know what was in the library. We knew there was a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of cures for diseases and stuff, a lot of technologies that are now gone.
Greek fire, the formula was probably in there.
What's that, Jimmy? No, Roman concrete formula was probably in there.
Roman concrete is probably in there.
It's just we lost all of that. That's
the plans and architecture for the Colossus of Rhodes was probably in there.
It's one of those things that they could have stopped, but they didn't. And in all fairness, they could have ended wars on the planet a long time ago just by showing up and saying, "Look, guys."
Yeah, but I'm going to stay with the argument that if it's just strictly a local event, it's going to destroy this city or that city, or this country or that country, no big deal. But when it's going to involve the whole planet, I think that's when they will have an issue. Even though some of them might want this planet, if we destroy it to the point with the nuclear weapons we have, we can sterilize this planet. And by sterilize, I mean it will never have life again.
It'll have life again.
What
Oh no,
happened-
it'll have life again. It'll have life again. It just won't have our life again. You can
Well,
nuke
yeah,
the
but I
whole
mean,
planet. It's still going to have life again.
But for how long will we sterilize it? For a very, very long time.
A very long time. You're talking at least a few million years or more.
At least. So they
It's,
may have issue with that.
I don't think
If
so. I don't think they
If
care.
we drop neutron bombs and
I think because of the original warring factions when they first came here, they're having no interference policy. They cannot. I don't think they can just interfere even if they want to. Because who's going to interfere? The Greys, reptilians, and humans. And then who's going to claim the planet if they do interfere?
Light beings come in after that, I guess.
And so, and light beings don't even like being around this planet for some reason. I never understood that. Well, I guess there's no real host here other than the other races.
Yeah, if we kill off any creatures that they can host from or host through, what purpose do they need to be here?
No, they say they can't host through humans because they burn us out too fast in under 20 minutes. It's just the whatever energies they made out of humans can't host them. I always love when people say they can, but all the aliens, all three aliens that visited have all said it when been asked. They say no, even they can't really host the light beams for any length of time.
It's interesting because you remember the alien superhero from Japan, Ultraman?
Yeah.
He could only exist in the atmosphere for several minutes before his energy would wane and he'd have to leave.
Yeah, I don't. It's something to do. I don't know. Maybe it's a draw. Maybe it's the pressure of the planet. Who knows? But for some reason, they don't like being here. And I think part of it is they don't have an escape route. Like on other worlds, they could probably jump into another beam for a little while. Here, they'd have to just keep jumping because every 20 minutes they'd burn out another beam. So that's probably why they stay out of here. Because humans tell me all the time, aliens, people have been abducted. Oh, I had the light beam channel me. I said, no, you didn't. Yeah, you did. I said, no, you didn't. Yeah, you did. I said, no, you didn't. I said, you might have had a gray channel, but you had no light beam channel. I said, you'd be dead if you did. I don't even think they can be like the Vorlons and even break off a little piece of their cells. It looks like that it's all or nothing for them. But who knows? I'm sure we're very limited in what we're told and given anyway. So,
yeah.
Well, Pete, ICAR's got a lot of information, but it's because we had 140 something thousand cases now. So and that's not including all the bullshit cases and everything else that got tossed and garbage sized. And so what we do is we do comparison studies that, find out this, find out that. And then we learned, like 25 years ago, that we can program contactees with questions. And when they get abducted, a lot of times the aliens answer without thinking about it because it's a telepathic question. Sometimes they answer. Now, I have heard that the aliens sometimes get a little aggravated when you do that, when it's something you probably shouldn't know. And there can be somewhat repercussions for it. But for the most part, especially the Greys, they say act like little proud parents. Like, oh, shit, did you see what my contactee did? Oh, my God, he got a thought in my head. Oh, my God. It's kind of like fun to them. I mean, because the Greys really think of us more as pets people than they think of us as equals.
Rivals.
Yes, they really think of us as pets. Really intelligent pets like a monkey or something, but not they don't consider us sentient to that point yet. Yeah, I don't know why.
We're not quite on the same wavelength.
The reptilians, for some reason, really like us, and the humans think of us as trash. The humans are funny. They think of most of us as trash cousins, but they do have one or two humans that they will lift to a higher level and like for some reason. I have no idea what it is. What it is? Maybe it's something to do with family lines, since all three abducted family lines. Maybe it came from one of the king's lines or something that the aliens,
And also, I mean, if we come off of the same genetic lines, maybe they, they feel a kinship. Maybe they look like a million-year-old ancestor they had, or personalities are similar. There's no question that there's some kind of favoritism. I mean, it happens between us. I mean, you look at your job. Anyone that has any kind of big corporate job, you work in a store or whatever, there's favoritism going on. They like certain people over others. When they want a certain task done, do they come to you? You're not favored to them.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, that's just what we found out over the years. We found out that most of these races or set up that way. I said, well, it's hey, Leah, where'd you go? It's well, guys, aliens are interested in the fact that they're watching our planet, they're watching us, they're doing whatever they're doing with us. But they're not really here to conquer us or to save us. Because, okay, it's the biggest thing that aggravates me about all abductees and contactees. I always hear this from one way or another. Oh, they're here to enlighten us. Really? Oh, well, I look around the planet for about 10 minutes. Well, they are doing a piss poor, shitty job. Oh, they're here to take us and eat us and conquer us. Really? Oh, they're doing another piss poor job. Since they got involved, there's 8 billion of us. I imagine when they got here, there was less than 50 million. I don't even know if there's that many, probably 20 million. So they're not doing a real good job with that part.
But however, there are, at least 1 million or so people that disappear every year, never, ever, ever found. So what happened to them? They could be food. They could be,
be food. They could be
taken off the road and been used as gun fodder.
But since we know something else about the aliens, we can rule out a few things. So we couldn't. It took forever to figure out why aliens kept showing up at graveyards and mortuaries and hospitals and morgues and shit. And aliens were being seen there. We're like, what the hell? So that's why a lot of people thought they were eating them. So we found out that the aliens can take a consciousness up to 3 days. Maybe that's where the 3-day layout came from. Remember the old days? Yeah, maybe that's where it came from.
And Jesus 3 days before he came back. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So they can take so if you get killed, they can take your consciousness up to 3 days, and either they can upload
unless your brain is destroyed.
Yeah, unless it's just. Well, I don't even know if it's thin. We'll talk about that in a second. So
yeah, because what if they got JFK?
Yeah, because somehow or another, it's like your essence they're taking. I'm not quite sure how this works, to be honest with you. I don't know if it's all brain or if it's all DNA or whatever the hell it is. Because a lot of people seem to think you can take a piece of DNA, and if it's done right, you can grow a person with their full knowledge intact. So I've never seen that happen, by the way.
There's lots of speculation on what they call genetic memory.
Yeah, genetic memory. And that's the reptilians are supposed to have genetic memory. So I think all those 3 races have genetic memory. So
yeah, which means they're born with the intelligence or whatever the parent knows.
But is that still in your head or is that in your DNA? But anyway, get back to what we were saying. So they take your essence and they can upload it to a new body, what they call a host body, or husk body is what they actually call it.
Husks,
Yeah, they can upload it into a hologram deck room where you can be completely functional and living through a hologram body, or they can just put you on a storage disk. They don't even have to put you on anything. They can just simply upload your consciousness and hold it there until whatever time they plan on using it again. So there's 3 options they have there, and they don't do it just to us; they do it to themselves as well. Mm-hmm. We don't know who invented the technology. The Greys talk about it a lot, but it seems like the Greys especially can be anywhere and upload themselves into a new body or into a holding area until such a time they can be put into a new body. So
yeah, it's like the well of the souls, and apparently they don't have to just put you in a humanoid or a walking body. They can put you in a cow or a dog. So extra lives.
Yeah, they just. I think with the Greys, it's probably like what is that? It's probably like Battlestar Galactica in the way they just probably upload them to the ship and hold them there until the body's ready for them. It's or more than likely, it's probably already bodies ready for them. They're probably just transporting themselves from one body to the next. Well, Jimmy, some people think that that's what reincarnation is. Some people think, okay, I'll say why, and then y'all can say whatever y'all want. A lot of people seem to believe, so when you die, you talk about the tunnel and the relatives and all the dead people and everything, right? But when you're born, it's the same description, right? So you go listen to someone who's been hypnotized back to the moment of birth, and they're going to tell you the same thing you hear a dead person say. Oh, there was a long tunnel, then there was a white light, and then I was filled with family members and people around me that loved me. It's the exact same description as death.
Only in reverse.
Only in reverse. So what does that mean? Does that mean you're being held somewhere? Or does that mean that when you die, you just go to the next available, whatever the next available consciousness is? So they talk about the soul, what is the Goth that holds all the souls?
Yeah, the well of the souls or something to that effect.
Yeah, and then that's when that's what they talk about, Jimmy. When it runs out, we all die. That's the end of the world. When it becomes empty, we all die. I mean, it's at 8 billion now. How many damn things could this thing hold? It's all in what you believe. That goes back to what Jay and I were saying just a little while ago. It goes to what you believe. Do you believe that? I mean, the aliens seem to be. Look, I already know that our government's been working on transferring consciousness of a body into a new brain already. So in 1995 or 96, that guy put that microchip in his head to see if he could record memories. He left it in for a while, and guess what? When he put the chip into a computer, it had his memories on it. So he learned right then and there was a way to take at least your memories and put them into a state, to state of the art technology. And since then, we know that several other companies have been working on this. And I'm pretty sure these days they're not 100% yet, but I bet you they can get your consciousness into a new body. You may not retain all your memory, and you may have issues.
Don't forget about the Russian experiments in the 50s where they took a monkey's head off of one monkey's body and put it on another monkey's body to see if they could transfer the consciousness that way. And that monkey survived for about a day and a half before it also perished. But two monkeys died in that experiment. Probably more, but that I know that was the most successful.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing, guys. Right now, we're in a position technologically that over the next 50 or 100 years, we will be able to upload a consciousness into a new body. That's simple. So the big problem is there's always been a big argument about can we grow clones to have our own clone. For reason, the first time it was going to be clones for parts. You could grow your own clones that way if you need a liver or a kidney or whatever.
They tackled this on Enterprise also.
Yeah, so they could do that. Well, it's banned and outlawed on the planet everywhere, as far as I know. Chinese pay big money for body parts, by the way. They will like if you they'll give you money to cut your liver in half, or to give them a kidney, or they'll just kill your ass and take and harvest all your parts. You never know, but it's a big thing in China. I'm pretty sure it's probably a big thing here. We just don't never hear about it, but it's a big thing over there. So, being able to grow the part would be the way to go. So, but now we've learned, y'all do know we can grow meat now, right? Not a cow, but a steak. Yes, this is going to be sometime in the next decade. This will be in the food. You'll be able to buy it. It's already being used and test marketed now. It's not just that. If you ever watch the TV series Eureka, they actually did it with chickens. But they grow a chicken breast or a chicken thigh, or they can grow different types of steak. Well, I don't know about hamburger, because hamburger has to be ground up. So, but if
you grow a steak and then grind it,
yeah, so
problem solved.
But they're talking about this, and then there would be no more killing of any animals, and it's 100% pure beef. That's what they say. It's growing from DNA, and it should have just the right amount of fat, just the right amount of cholesterol, just the right amount of vitamins.
Perfect marbling, perfect thickness. No more necessary butterfly cuts.
Yeah, no more hitting a cow in the head with something and then electrocuting it and then killing it.
Yeah,
no more of that. Well, that just makes the environment worse, Jackie. Yes, all them cows will be farting all over the place and killing the planet. Liberals want to kill the cows and the buffaloes on the planet. Buffalo, by the way, which is still an extinct species, not extinct, but on the endangered list.
It's a recovering species.
Yeah, they want to start killing them all because they fart. Why not get rid of cars? That would be the way to go. It's like when I hear people bitch about guns. Why don't we get rid of cars first? They kill more people, and they kill the planet. Yeah, because we're just like that. We're creatures of habit. So aliens are looking at us. See, everything we're talking about right now, aliens look at us and see this. We're still a gun-toting society.
And you have to wonder, how close are we to the way they were 13 million years ago, or however old they are?
Well, the Greys, Greys Supposed to be 1 billion plus years old, so God knows the shit they've been through over those.
Yeah, and do they even remember how they were in their age? That
might be one of the other reasons they're here, watching us idiots.
Yeah.
Well,
we can't have possibly been like this. Wow. wow.
I know
Yeah,
these
you were.
guys are savages.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, it doesn't mean all societies start out that way. It doesn't mean all societies were split like ours is. So if one of the great leaders, and maybe one of the great Romans or Greeks or somebody would have took the planet and held the planet, took all over Europe and then took all the Middle East and then came to the Americas and took the Americas, we would be a one world government today.
Yeah, we might
There would
already
have never
be a part of
been.
the Galactic Federation.
There would have never been all these other countries. After World War II, if America would have done the right thing and kept all 70% of the world that it had taken and did what its generals asked and took, made China join and took Russia,
And stomp
it
Russia.
we'd be one world government today. Europeans would have joined on their own. We would be what we need. See, I'm not a big one worlder in the fact that way y'all think of one worlder, I think of one world in a different way. That everybody gets a vote. Well, no, it'll have to be like the American Electoral College, because you can't let the Chinese and the Indians have 2 billion votes, because one of your people will never win. So those votes will have to be tampered by an electoral college who contributes the most to society and stuff.
Well, but the Electoral College also wasn't only just for that reason.
No, it was for a couple of reasons, actually.
Yeah, well, a couple. But one of the key reasons is so that we were guaranteed an elected position, just in case there were a bunch of people that were illiterate and couldn't write and read. If they made the wrong check mark, you can't change your vote once it's been tallied. That's one of the reasons. And the fact is that they weren't sure everyone was going to vote. So if nobody goes out and votes, you have to have some sort of system to get somebody into run the country.
But Randy, was to make sure that New York and California wasn't always the president of the United States. No one took in consideration that Texas and Florida would catch him up with him one day. But that's why it was designed, because everybody was scared that, and back then they were Republican states, they weren't Democratic states. Everybody was scared that, because the majority of people lived in them two states, that they would win the presidency every year. And if it would have went by a popular vote, they probably would have.
And you also didn't vote for president and vice president with one tick mark. There was a check mark for who you wanted to be president and a check mark for who you wanted to be vice president. And if you wanted to, you could pick the Democratic president and a vice president, a Republican vice president. It used to be that way years and years ago, and I think it needs to go back to that.
I do too. No, Frank. So at one point, you could have voted either one; it wouldn't have mattered. But today, it needs to be like some of the governor elections are, where it has to be the same party, but they have to run on a separate ticket. Well, that way, and it also helps to bring in some oversight for your president. It's not his hand-picked guy. It's the country's picked guy. Do you think we'd have got J.D. Vance if he was a voted on person? Do you think we'd have got this new guy, whatever his name is, Waltz? If he didn't vote on
Waltz.
I mean, I'm just saying, do you think we'd have got either one of those if they were voted on positions? Good question. No, not for the night, but on Friday nights, we're 2 nights out from Friday. Come ask us. We'll talk to you about it. We'll be talking about the new VP. We'll be talking about, somebody sent me a video of Kamala. She might as well be Joe Biden. She gaffes as much as he does. It's hilariously funny, some of the shit she does. No, but we play stuff like that. You'll see it. And you can send us stuff. We don't mind. We do talk a little alien sometime on Friday night if it comes up in the conversation. Sometimes
we talk a little food, especially when we're hungry.
So, but getting back, because we haven't really even talked about exopolitics, which is one of the things we were going to talk about tonight, but whatever, we don't finish. So exopolitics is a weird thing, because who created exopolitics? Ooh, now I did a show a long, long time ago on this thing, because there is more than one exopolitics and there's more than one creator. Who would have known such a thing? Who do you think created exopolitics, Jay?
Who created politics? I think that's the whole idea of the show. Where did we get politics from? Is it an alien concept?
No, unfortunately, it's a stupid human concept. And if it is an alien concept, we need to firmly put our foot in their ass.
That's another thing I was saying earlier in the show. I said, what if we encounter another alien government? how close is it going to be to something we already have?
That's the thing. We don't know.
Yeah.
Some of these governments will be completely all in one. Some of these governments will be divided like ours. It's just going to vary from government to government. Well, we don't know. I mean, it's one of the reasons I like Babylon 5. It had multiple governments on there of different kinds. Some like ours, some different. They're also going to have a lot to do with what kind of power they wield.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same with Star Trek. They had, several, key home species, Klingons, Romulans, and Andorians, and Vulcans, and whatnot, and all had different styles of governing, and they all, well, not necessarily Romulans and the Klingons, but the bulk of the Federation governments were all at least friendly.
Well, we may have gotten lucky if the light beings came like they said they did a couple million years ago. Then we may have gotten lucky. We may be the species that grows up without the galactic war. We may be the first species in that will actually get into the cosmos after the galactic war. Since civilization has gone back to just being everyday civilization and everybody growing and expanding.
Or
what's weird here?
Recovery. We could be the recovery.
Could be. What's weird here, people? We know we got the human aliens. We know we got the reptilians. We can argue about which one of them came first, but we do know
the egg.
Well, we do know the Sumerians created the first creation of man, which was a slave race. The reptilians didn't do that. Reptilians interfered with that creation later on, but which thanks to the reptilians is why we're a self-aware species today. That species that the ancient human aliens created, whatever name you want to give them, was this species.
The last one was the Adamu, and it was, the word means the first ones who could breed.
Yeah. Well, so that species created the first species of man, which was actually 7 species of man, with our brothers being the last species. So we're a lot like they are, except for the fact that we're probably taller, bigger, way smarter. But that's only because the reptilians interfered. And what's great about this story is both the Sumerians, the Egyptians, and the Dogon write about this. So you know it's a real story. It comes from 3 different races. It's being verified. They said that the reptilians came in, flew in and landed in some lake on top of some mountain. They call them the Nemos. And left the lake, walked down. They were somewhere above Egypt, walked down, went down, found the Sumerian women, started stealing them, raping them, bringing them back with babies. Those babies were born. They were self-aware now. They had a reptilian, They had that little spark of reptilian that makes you ask, why am I doing this? Why aren't you doing this? Just because you're omnipotent don't mean you can't use a shovel. Right. So somewhere along the line, that kept happening until there was a rebellion and that species broke away. And when it did, that species contaminated whatever species else that were running around on the planet, interbred with them. So then you had the reptilian humans. It's one of the reasons the reptilians and humans were so furious. That's why they abduct in family lines, because they created the family lines. By this crossbreeding, they created them, so they knew which family.
They may be the ones responsible for the Sumerian kings list.
Yeah,
of who
they probably are.
Who was king and who could be successors.
Because they had the family lines and which families were the most powerful. Which even amongst a subservient race, you're still going to have leaders or people that stand up with ability. So those are the ones they probably chose. And as that species grew, then of course you can't blame the aliens for being pissed at the reptilians. They just came in and screwed up their whole program. I mean, they had a program that was mining gold and mining different things for them, doing whatever they needed them to do, and didn't even ask why they had to do it. Just did it joyfully. And the reptilians were like, enough of this shit, and came in and gave them, self-awareness. But somewhere down the line, and that could be our A and B blood right there. Somewhere way down the line, 10,000, 100,000, 200, whatever it was, the Greys showed up. And they were like, what the bleep, and what the bleep, and what the bleep, what the bleep? No, y'all can't do this. This is going to start a war. You're not allowed to do this. We're going to get interfered. So
you're all under arrest for neutral zone treaty violations.
So at the time, the reptilians and the human were abducted half and half. Well, when the Greys stepped in, that all changed. Both of them went to abducting about 15% each, and the Greys started abducting the majority. probably where Rh negative and O blood came from, was from the Greys. So I think one of the reasons they haven't wiped us out is because we probably do share all three of their DNA. And it's probably one of the reasons they're really interested in us is because one day, if, and this is a big if, we don't blow everything to shit and back, we may be the dominant species in the galaxy.
That's a long way from here, though.
It is.
But that is, I agree that that's part of it. But I think also another strong part of it is whatever experiment they were trying to achieve, they're now all three trying to achieve, maybe three different outcomes. I don't know. Or perhaps they're trying to repair any DNA damage done by the interbreeding of, making of the Nephilim and all that other stuff that happened way, way, way back when that we don't have full stories on.
Yeah, and see that's the thing. We and see the Nephilim could easily be the six-fingered ones that the Sumerians talk about. So I noticed the Sumerians, when they talk about the aliens that built the two great white dome cities, they never really put a name on them. If they did, they never told any of us. Or maybe it was just a name they couldn't pronounce. I don't know what happened there, but they talk about the Great Dome cities in great detail.
Well,
they talk about this race
and the city of Anarbashipal.
They were dome cities that no longer exist. That's all I know.
Well, that's where they think they are. Those are the names of the cities. Ur and I think Anarbashipal was built on top of the other one. One was built for Enki and one was built for Enlil, and they each ruled under those domes.
Well, these two were built at the same time, and they were built to house the aliens that came here because they couldn't breathe the atmosphere on our planet. And neither could the people on the planet, or after they created people on the planet, could not breathe the atmosphere inside the cities. They actually had to give them a thing that went on their nose so they could come in and out the cities because they couldn't breathe the atmosphere there. So obviously the original human aliens are not from an oxygen-breathing planet. Now, the ones they created what they like to call, they recreated themselves on this planet identically, except they could breathe the atmosphere. That race, for some reason, and the Sumerians talk about it, decided that they were omnipotent just like the other race. Why are they plowing the fields? Why are they digging the mines when they can just create a race that can go out there and do it? And that's when, and that's when the seven creations of man started. And they talk about the eagle head and the wolf head and all kind of headed things. And then the last creation was us. Well, not us, but the relatives of us, who the reptilians came in and are bred with. Mm-hmm. So I mean, they have a nice long storyline, and the Egyptians and the Dogon back them up. So it's hard to get away from the story. Other than that, but all that tells us for sure is one, that there was a race that was here that created us.
So something came in and took the DNA of Homo habilis and created Homo erectus, because there's no transitional bones between those two species. But the technology increases dramatically. Homo habilis uses simple tools, rocks and sticks, and builds adobe mud brick homes. And then there's like a 1,000,000-year gap. There's no transition. All of a sudden, bam, there's Homo erectus. Not only does he use spears and napped, sharp pieces of flint to cut flesh, but they build advanced houses with 2 and 3 levels, sometimes on stilts, like Joe's house is.
It was definitely an upturn.
It's a major step, and from that Homo erectus comes us.
It's just the humans started, the reptilians interfered, and then the Greys came and said, okay, well,
one could argue the Anunnaki came in and created Homo sapiens sapiens, and then the reptilians came along and perfected it.
Well, unfortunately, all we can go by is the stories, and I read Ike's stories, but his stories were off a little bit.
The Gigi stories,
and some of his were mistranslated, like when he talks about Planet Nibiru. So he talks about this planet parked in orbit around Earth. Well, that's a physical impossibility. Yeah. A planet 5 times the size of Earth would have destroyed us, and we'd have been nothing but dust. Now, something maybe moon size or small, something that looks like the moon in the sky, that's different. It could have been a planet. It might not have been a planet. It might have just been a ship. Because from what I understand, they have great, big, huge monster ships, orbs and squares, like the Borg ships.
And a ship 5 times the planet would have 5 times our gravity, and it would pull it apart just like
Yeah.
the fifth
So
planet was.
yeah, this was just some ship, probably the size of our moon, came into orbit. Probably wasn't even a close orbit, just to make sure it didn't cause any other problems. Probably stayed right out of the orbit, the affected orbit of the planet, even though you could still see it. And it just stood back there sending ships back and forth, because there was lots of activities about things flying in the skies and all back then. And of course, we all know, people, going back more than 150, 200 years, there was nothing flying in the skies, nothing but birds. When was the hot air balloon invented, in the 1800s or something?
1800s
17?
at
Yeah,
least,
yeah.
yeah.
So before that, there was nothing. Nothing. Anytime you hear anybody talking about flying in the sky shit, it should be most particularly interesting to you. Because really and truly, there was nothing flying in the sky. And there was a lot of reports of stuff flying in the sky. That's why I always tell people, when you want to start in ufology, start in the ancient world, move forward, because it's the most interesting, because there was nothing. Ezekiel's wheel. I mean, it was
September
all.
19th, 1783 was the first demonstration of a hot air balloon.
Yeah, so right there at 1800. So there you go, people. So anything before 1783, well, if it's flying, you need to find out. Unless it was a witch on a broomstick, I don't know what to tell y'all.
Or bird with wings, or bat with bat wings.
There was lots of things described as like Ezekiel's wheel. There was lots of things described as flying shields. So there was saucers and triangles being seen, even way back then. And we've told y'all about the story about the shield that just blew up and it took a side and blew the city open. It watched a 3-year siege. And the funny part was, both sides said this thing would come and go over the years that it was there. And then one day it just pulled up, stopped over the gate, blue beam came out, annihilated the gate, and the enemy rushed in and took the city. And it was such a surprise to both sides that both people had time to both sides write about this, winners and losers. And what made them decide to take a side? That's a good question in itself.
100% story of influence. I don't know if you would call it influence, but they definitely affected it. I mean, they gave the opportunity for it. Yeah, they gave the opportunity for the attackers to get the city.
I said, for anybody, no, they made a choice. I mean, that was a choice on, I'm going to save this one or destroy this one, and that's exactly what they did.
Well, they did the same thing twice to Alexander. He goes to I think it was King Darius's country. I forget the name of the country. Persia, maybe. But anyway, when he gets there, the shields in the sky incinerate his elephants, which is his big, his tanks, his main armor, his main weapon. So he doesn't attack the city of King Darius, and he goes back. He flees towards the Mediterranean, and then he's got his army backed up with the Mediterranean on their back, so they have nowhere to go. King Darius thinks he has an opportunity to take care of Alexander, so he takes his whole army and follows him. And when he gets there, another set of shields, or maybe the same set, we don't know, they show up again and blow up King Darius's army, but leave King Darius alive, so Alexander can do what he wants with him. And I think he made him his own proxy. He made Darius run Persia while Alexander was out of Persia.
It's well, see, guys, it's just from time to time you would just hear about them deciding,
making a choice to influence how things go here on Earth.
Yeah, it was just weird to even see that they took a side, and we don't know, are they taking sides today?
And we don't know which species it was.
Yeah, we don't. That's the thing.
It could have been one of the species that was in part of this galactic war that's been going on in this sector of the galaxy since before the light beings arrived. Who knows?
What's that, Phil? Oh, if it's an elongated saucer, it was probably reptilians. If it was a triangle, it was probably the humans. If it was a saucer, it was probably the Greys. But what do you mean? How long did it take you mean how long did it take for the counts to form? And that's, from what I understood, a long time. It took, from what the Greys say, it took millions of years, at least a couple million years, to bring all the wars to an end and to get everybody on the same page. But by saying that, that doesn't mean people don't go rogue and people don't do shit. And I mean, Earth was just a planet that with nothing on it, lots of resources, but no one really to interfere. So you don't know how many races stopped.
A couple of species of monkeys, really.
Let's not forget about the Pravda map, a 120-year-old cover map. Nobody knows what the hell it's for. It was just a cover map of resources taken from an aerial view 120 million years ago. It sure wasn't us. And if it was us, that changes our whole history. That means we have risen and fallen more times than we can count. I have seen the pictures of the human footsteps with the dinosaur tracks in Arkansas. I've seen them in a couple of states.
Mm-hmm.
Is it real or is it not? I don't know. I'm not the expert.
What about the giant footprint that looks like it was pushed into mud, but it's on a rock sideways? Like not like this. Not like. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen it. I don't think.
Oh gosh, let me find that.
Well, Carl, I mean, the whole problem is when you go back and look at the ancient world compared to today's world, and you look at the people's mindset, anything extraterrestrial could have been perceived as a god. Yes. Well, what is it? It's the what is it? The Ark of the Covenant. For some reason, people think the Ark of the Covenant was a communication device.
Oh, there it is.
No, because it would leave burn marks on people's faces, and there would be talking in it. Not that they were talking to God; there was just like some kind of communication in it. Sounds like some type of radiation explosion. Well, they never give you how much longer a person left after they seen the Ark. They just said what happened. Maybe if you left it open, maybe it's what happened on the movies. It melted everybody. We have all these holy relics and ancient relics and stuff that we don't know if these were technologies that maybe the alien. In the early days, I mean the way early days, it does seem like the races back when the Egyptians were just and the Sumerians were just peons, just like the Toltecs and the Incans. It does look like sometimes they did interfere. The problem is, I think anytime they interfere, it went rogue. Well, because nowhere in Africa or in Europe were these bloodthirsty sacrifices like they were in the Mayans, the Aztecs, and the Incans.
Well, here's a picture, Joe, of a giant footprint.
Damn.
The footprint is as big as that man, almost. And there are several different pictures of people standing next to this. I don't know where it is. I think it's in Central or South America. But that's
too bad we can't time travel back. Well, it's got to be way back, people. It's formed in rock now, so
yeah,
it's a couple million years old for sure.
But it looks almost like whatever that rock was mud.
It probably was.
Yeah,
it was probably a hunk of giant clay or something.
I don't know if you can see my cursor, but up here there's like what is this? This kind of depression here. Maybe it's a knee. You see that?
Let me see if I can zoom in on it.
This section right here, just to the top left of the foot.
I don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah, it's some sort of depression in the rock. It may be unrelated, but it could also be. Maybe it's. I don't know. It's maybe he's kneeling and that's his fist as he pushed into the ground. I don't know.
It's a pretty good footprint, though, man.
If it's a real footprint, that creature's probably like 40 feet tall.
Oh, easy.
At least.
Easy, because this guy's probably about 6 foot tall.
Oh, yeah.
What's that, Freddie Mac?
And there are other pictures of there's other giant footprints, all cased in stone. Some are carved. There's one I think it's an Anunnaki statue that are the feet are carved into the floor. So they're not actual footprints, but they are at least supposed to be relative size for the Anunnaki's feet, making them somewhere on the order of 30 or 40 feet tall.
Michael, they could easily be aliens that size. Yeah. So we come
King Og was supposedly 36 feet tall.
So we go by. That's why they were called. That's why, and they were probably the Greek and Roman gods is who they were. It's probably what they fell under it, and they probably came here from a different world.
Yeah.
But the yeah, well, they probably came here from a world maybe 5 times the size of Earth. There would have been a 5G environment. So here, not only would they have been taller, I mean, they would have been tall like they were at home, but they would have been way the hell stronger.
Oh yeah. They could easily, with one hand, pick up a 30 or 40 foot tall dude could pick up a 16-ton block of granite, andesite, and build a pyramid.
And think if he was from a 5G world, it wouldn't even be like a marvel to him.
Yeah.
Well, people, we're a 1G world. If we go to Mars or the moon, I mean, on the moon, you could lift up your car.
No.
No, I mean, not the whole car. You can't lift the whole car.
You could do like the whole pick it up. You could
easily pick it up, change your tires and stuff, do work on it. You could easily pick it up. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't even be a big thing.
You could be a dick and like your neighbor's house and like knock his car over if you're mad at him.
Well, no, Mars is 1/3 gravity, I believe. Moon's 1/6, but Mars I think is 1/3. It's the moon really 1/6 isn't really much in the way of gravity, people.
So what it means is if you take a 100-pound weight here on Earth, on the moon, it weighs 60 pounds.
No, 6 pounds.
Is it 6?
Yeah, 1/6. So 6 pounds.
Oh.
Yeah. At 60 pounds, it would be 50, 55, something like that. It
would be grams. It would float.
Well, y'all don't remember when the goofball tried to throw a suitcase into space and like to throw himself into space? That tells you how light the gravity is right there. This guy was in a fully weighted. Them suits are heavy, guys. They're not light. They're a couple 100 pounds. And he went to go throw a suitcase, and when he did, he almost went into space with the damn suitcase. So he drove a golf ball that's probably somewhere in Alpha Centauri by now, or burnt up. No, I don't
think Armstrong's golf ball actually escaped the moon's gravity.
You get into that.
That would be a good NASA mission, though. Let's go back to Tranquility Base.
We get all kind of rocks that come off. We get all kind of rocks come off the moon all the time. We get rocks come off Mars for that matter.
Yeah, but I don't think a human being would have enough strength to do it. A rock hitting the moon and then ricocheting off towards Earth, that I can see.
Well, if it's not, then somewhere out a couple of 100 miles, there should be a little white speck going around the moon. Maybe it's orbiting
the moon, or maybe
it's the moon.
I think
it's the moon's moon.
That should be NASA's first mission to the moon. Go to Tranquility Base and find that goddamn golf ball and bring it back to Earth.
There was a big argument on where that golf ball went. I remember when they did it. I was thinking, well, I guess we won't find out. Raymond. Well, they might have quit going to the moon. I mean, a lot of people said that Neil Armstrong was warned off the moon. He had made the first official alien contact for the Americans, by the way. He always said that. And that they were told not to come back to this part of the moon or on the other side of the moon. Now, how much is that true? I don't know, because China's on the other side of the moon right now.
China and India are on the other side.
They're putting rovers down all over the place. Well, they just found that this is interesting. They found one of these on the moon and one of these on Mars. Really nice tunnels that look pretty deep where you could set up a colony. They're going to be all over Mars because of Olympus Mons. Look how big Olympus is. I imagine there are rooms in there that are just tremongoid huge, the size of the Empire State Building and shit.
Joe, you're forgetting the big obvious main feature of Mars. There's that huge gouge down the middle of the planet, just covered over with glass. There's your colony.
What is it? 50 times the size of the Grand Canyon? It's big, whatever it is.
It's huge. It covers almost a third of the face of the planet.
But you don't even know how many
telescope.
You don't even know how many outlets there may be in there, other tunnels and stuff.
Yeah.
I imagine Mars got a lot of tunnels.
We can't even see the Grand Canyon from outer space. You can see the Great Wall because it makes a straight line. You can't see the Grand Canyon. You can see this canyon from Mars from a telescope here on Earth.
What's that, Bobby? Bobby, you can see most cities from Earth because it's nighttime and it lights up the whole damn place. I mean, if you're driving by our planet and you're on the light side and you happen to glance over, you don't see nothing but water and clouds unless you've got, probes running. But if you're going by at night and you look over to the right, you're like, son of a bitch, who's living there? The whole Santa friggin' planet's lit up. I mean, have y'all watched our planet at night? It's everything's lit up. There's hardly any dark spots anymore. I remember when I first started watching in America, it was like a little spot here, a little spot here. Now it's just almost a wave till you get to the middle of the country.
The only dark spots are really the ocean.
It's getting bad. It's getting bad. No, we got to go. What? I don't know if you mean now. Joe Biden's not going to tell you. Joe Biden don't even know his name. As far as Kamala Harris goes, I don't even think she knows what an extraterrestrial is. I mean, you can ask. I've never even heard her talk about him. I've never even heard anybody pose the question ever.
All right. Here we go. Real quick before we go, here's the canyon on Mars.
The Mariner Valley, is that what it's called?
Valles Marineris, yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently something landed there. The Noctis landing. I don't know what that is. Somebody's spaceship. But look at that gouge. I mean, it's not just a gouge. I mean, it looks like a plasma weapon hit it. It
kind of looks like something drug across it.
Yeah. I mean, it's enormous and it spreads out. I mean, it's just not just canyons. It's like an impact crater and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people think it happened when the that crater hit the other side of the planet. The one that formed Olympus Mons, they think that's what caused this to that's where the force of the impact came out at. It still looks like something being dragged to me, but there's so many areas that look like there was something liquid going. I mean, all the edges, especially in this top one, look like water runoff. Or it could be lava runoff. I mean, I'm not going to say for sure.
Someone's speculating it's like electrical discharge or a plasma discharge.
Well, there's stuff down here on the bottom right looks just like if you have ever taken an electric
right here,
that looks just like electric discharge. So you take a nail and put it into a thin piece of wood, and you put a charge to it. That's what it'll do. It'll go out and make all these little spirally things. It looks like that on both sides of that valley, but when you get up here on the top, it looks different.
Up here, it looks more like water erosion or
yeah. I don't know, guys. Something might have gouged it. Something might have been passing the planet, and you might have got a little discharge from the electrical plus a gouge all at the same time. And God knows how many meteor impacts have hit it since then.
Maybe this was a major technology center for the Martian colonies or whatever, and it was destroyed intentionally with some sort of weapon, and who knows what that weapon entailed. But
it's crazy to look at it, though.
Yeah, it's.
Well, think about it, people. Mars is about a little more than half the size of Earth, and it's got the largest crater on the planet and the largest volcano. In the solar system. Not just. I mean, it's bigger than anything out in the outer planets. Of course, out there the gravity's so tough it flattens anything like Olympus Mons down. No, Jupiter could suck up Venus if it really got close enough. It could also suck up Uranus and Neptune too. Mm-hmm. Jupiter's big, people. It's a sun basically that didn't ignite, and
it's a failed star.
Yeah, it could. The right circumstances could probably ignite. It's something that they've talked about in the future, so that the outer planets would warm.
I had an argument with some research fellows that are in Australia, and he said this one guy, they're brothers, and they're famous. He said that this planet, Earth, grows a little bit each year from debris that falls onto it from outer space. Yeah. And I said, "You're nuts! You got to be crazy." And then I realized that he was right.
Yeah,
he won that argument. So if we're growing a little bit each year, Mars is growing a little bit each year, Jupiter's growing a little bit each year. If it captures enough of the gases and material it needs, it could ignite tomorrow. And then, boom, we get hit with a shockwave. Bye-bye colony Earth.
Well, maybe not. We might survive it, but it'd be interesting to have another star in the sky.
Part of the planet might survive, the other won't. Who knows?
Well, that's true, too. That could happen, too. Well, we know that Shoemaker-Levy comet went in there and Oh man, it was big pieces, people. Oh no, there was
17
pieces.
or 18 pieces of rock.
Yeah, there was some of the pieces were bigger than our moon that rammed in there. So that Jupiter got all of that material. It's all down at the core by now, I would imagine. It's all been sucked down to the core, but they're not sure what the core is. They think it's iron or some type of metal just squished, but they're not 100% sure. We can't get anything down there to find out.
Anything will get crushed before it even gets into the outer atmosphere.
Yeah, we can't even get down even a couple of layers. Oh no, we've sent shit into the atmosphere. Oh no, that's what happens. We're just not to that. You mean the diving bell? It might make the first atmospheric level, and then
No,
it's not like the ocean, guys. The lightest part of Jupiter is probably the worst part of our ocean, if not more. Well,
Yeah.
I forgot how many G's it is when you get to the bottom of the ocean, but it's enough to crush you. I know that. Boy, I don't remember seeing the guys exploring
planet
Titanic.
Earth against its horizon or equator. 69. That's huge. Our brains can't fathom that.
I know. Rim, you don't remember seeing the Titanic, the little sub that imploded on the Titanic and squished everybody inside, and the blood came oozing out all around it? It imploded. You need to look up what implosion is and see what happened to those people.
That's what happened when your submersible vehicle's outer hull fails.
An implosion is not like an explosion. It's different. It's an inward explosion is what it is. Yeah, go find out for yourself. It's not. If I had to choose the choice of way to die, it's not one of the ones I would choose.
It's the way you would die if you were in outer space without a spacesuit. You would
Pretty much.
implode. You would also freeze to death and then implode and turn into little pieces of ice.
Actually, Johnny, they tell you if you get in space, you're supposed to exhale as much as you can, but it's not going to help you any.
Not unless you get back in right away.
Yeah, she better have a suit right there to climb back into, her helmet to put right back
Or
in
a spaceship door.
Yeah, something. So no, I would imagine even exposed for a few seconds, you're risking frostbite.
I think a human can sustain about 30 seconds in the atmosphere of space without damage if they get back inside immediately.
It's cold, people. It's not like it's warm out there. Well, I guess if you're close to the sun, it might be warm. But other than that, it's cold everywhere else. No, we got to go. It's past my bedtime. I'm going to turn into a pumpkin. Actually, that was Michelle DeRoche. She was on the Lightgate. Yes. No, not the Lightgate. She was on CL's show. Came on Tuesday, second to last show on Tuesday. Yeah, you'll catch it. It'll be up in a little while. It's actually already up. You can go check it out now. Yeah, it's already up. But Jay and I got to go, man. I got to eat. Why is it saying Echo Churney?
The show is already on.
Why do we got Echo Churney going here? What the hell's going on?
I don't know. You
here?
put that up there. I thought you were advertising for her.
I love Echo, but I'm not be advertising. I'm not sure even how that got up there.
I didn't do it.
What's that, Frank? Yeah, I don't know. It's got to be something to do with the branding thing, the brand button.
Yeah.
Banner button. This one right here. Yeah, there it goes. Look at that. Echo hosts a show called The Professional. It actually is on Saturday between Writers of the Futures and the Arthur's Quill. Yes. So go by and check it out. She's a professional artist. But on that note, I got to go. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to United Public Radio and UFO Undercover. Any moans, groans, bitches, gripes, or complaints, please write to Michelle DeRoche, courtesy of Michelle DeRoche at theouterrealm.com.
Tell her Joe sent you.
Yes, tell her Joe sent you. She'll love you for it. She might even send you a lollipop. Yep, and if you believe that I got some land down here for sale, it's never even seen water before.
Only been dropped once and never been used.
Just because it's close to the ocean don't mean it's seen any water. On that note, we got to go, guys and girls. Thanks again. What's that, Christopher? No. Thanks again for listening to United Public Radio and UFO Undercover. I will see y'all Friday night. Jay and I will be here, hopefully with the boys and with Leah, and we will be doing politics. It should be an interesting thing. I was hearing all these great things, and already it seems like the worm may be turning on someone. We're not going to mention any names tonight, but go check it out and get informed. Learn before you come see us on Friday night. Because a lot of people write to us, and we're there to help you out to understand all the shit that's going on. But learn. Don't be scared to ask questions. Jay loves answering questions.
Oh yeah,
He loves it. It's like a freaking encyclopedia. On that note, we got to go. Don't want thanks again, everyone, for tuning in, and don't forget. Let me know if y'all have any gripes, moans, and again, I will see y'all all Friday night.
Yep. See ya.